Let's go live on another bicycle live stream on Sunday the 12th of July at 6:38 a.m. I've ridden 20 kilometres and it is 15.8 degrees Celsius. So let's get straight into it. I shared a meme a couple of days ago that said karma has no menu. We get served what we deserve. And it provoked some pretty strong reactions from a couple of people. So I'd like to address that on this live stream for you to have some more information. It's easier for me to do this than to type things out, especially when you're time poor and combining activities. So I have spoken about karma before, but it's been quite a while and I couldn't actually find the video that I did in the past about it. So this is why I'm doing this one now. Okay, so Newton's third law says that every action has an equal and opposite reaction. And this law is science's way of understanding karma, which is the universal law of cause and effect. What you sow, so shall you reap. It is known in many different faiths and religions, and as I said, that one there, that's the biblical one. What you sow, so shall you reap. What you put out is what you get back, or what you put in is what you get back. Now, I'm going to explain why karma exists, how it works, and why people misunderstand it and find it unfair. There was a couple of really good points brought up there. That usually there's 2 points that come up whenever karma is mentioned. One is the point of what seems to be unfairness, because as one person brought up a point saying, oh well, what about people that are born in a suffering condition, born blind or born with disabilities, or die and leave their body at an early age. That's completely unfair. And then somebody else brought up Hitler, which interestingly also comes up in these discussions. So let's address both of them. The meaning of the word karma is it is the sum of our, the dictionary definition, it's the sum of a person's actions in this existence or previous existence. Now that's actually a dictionary definition. I haven't got a word perfect, but in Hinduism and Buddhism, it is known not just in this existence, but in previous existences. So the mistake, let's just address the mistake that so many people are making when they look at karma and they go, oh well, it goes down a whole, let's start again. It goes down a whole rabbit hole. They start off with a mental speculation of, oh well, how do you explain, kids being born with disabilities and dying at an early age and so forth. They start off with that and they go, so therefore karma doesn't exist. Well, I'm not quite sure how you draw that conclusion. and then they go on about, then they connected to God and said, oh well, there can't be a God because he wouldn't allow that to happen and so forth. It's like, wow, you really dug a hole there, didn't you? So let's put a little bit of spiritual realization in there. The problem that people have is that you're looking at a single timeline. You're only aware, oh boy, bumpy. You're only aware of the existence that you see now of that person that you read about on the news or that you knew personally, that came into this world in the vehicle they're traveling in the body they're traveling in, and was only here for a short time. And because we all have this enjoyer consciousness, we think it's so unfair that that person didn't get to enjoy all the fruits of material enjoyment. Now, the big mistake is looking at that singular timeline and going, oh, that person only lived a few years or whatever. It's like, yes, in this body, they only lived a few years. Or, yes, they were born in this body with a disability or or some other condition that made it harder for them to enjoy material things, as if that was the goal of life, which of course it's not. But you are forgetting that the time that we spend in this body is so infinitesimal, that it's on the scale of eternity, the eternal duration that our soul exists for. The time spent in this body is so infinitesimal, it's almost immeasurably small. And so we just see a snapshot, just a brief glimpse of a person's existence in their eternal timeline, with the 80 odd years on average that a person spends in the body in this particular lifetime. It's just a glimpse, it's a flash, it's gone. In the comparison to eternity, it's gone in a flash. And so we're looking at it with a very limited understanding or perception, very limited perception. We're saying, oh, look, that person is, they're born with this condition or that condition. It's like, yes, in this lifetime, but what was their actions in their previous lifetime, and the one before that, 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 and the one before that. If I sound like a broken record, it's because it goes back so far that you cannot find a starting point, that it is eternal. When you look at the soul's journey eternally, then karma makes sense. You go, oh, I see. If I knew their last life, I'd be able to say, yes, they did this and this, and so they are owed, in their karmic bank account, they are owed some good enjoyment or some not so good enjoyment. But we don't know what their actions were in their previous life, although we can possibly get some understanding of it, possibly by what we see people going through in this life. It's an interesting thing that I see come up as well, is people get really, really triggered by this concept of victimhood. I don't get that. I don't get why people feel so triggered about that. Each individual person has to look at themselves and go, why am I feeling triggered? Why am I needing to lash out and say, we can't call people victims and that? Because it's interesting. It's not something that I think of or refer to. It's just not. I just don't. It doesn't occur to me to think of a person as a victim, but other people do. It's on their radar. So when that comes up, I observe it and I think, interesting. What is it that's in your mind? What are you projecting from yourself that, brings in this thing about victimhood? So another thing in relation to karma is that because it's a universal law, like all universal laws, it exists but beyond our belief system and is put in place as a system of checks and balances. We have free will, but we have responsibility for the decisions we make. If that system was not in place, there would be anarchy, there would be basically the world that we live in and the worlds that we've lived in and the environments we've lived in would be so out of control that they would be unlivable if there was not a system of checks and balances. If there was not something on a universal level that operated automatically, that made it so that if I kill someone in one life, at some point I have to suffer the consequences for it. I have to pay the price. People sometimes say, and that point, well, I think of it, may not be in this life, maybe in the next, or the next. People sometimes say, oh, I don't believe in karma, and I find that a really interesting statement. I was going out with someone once, and she was really, really adamant, I don't believe in karma. And I thought, why would you so strongly need to deny a universal law? And it wasn't until I came across it a few times that I realized the reason why a person says that is because it gives them an excuse to do whatever they want to do without having to be accountable. In other words, our false ego wants to enjoy without limitations. So it doesn't want you or me or anyone else imposing rules and that on it. If we want to, our false ego's like, if I want to sleep with someone, I don't care. I just want to do it. That's a false ego. It's like a spoiled brat that just wants to do what it wants to do, and it doesn't want me or you telling it that it's not appropriate. So the false ego, in someone, they'll go, no, I don't believe in karma, because it gives them an easy out. They can do whatever they want and not feel accountable. But as I said, karma is like gravity. It's beyond our belief system. It doesn't depend on our beliefs. It exists outside of our belief system. It is a universal law. So there was another point I wanted to make there in relation to understanding that we are unconditionally loved, which I talk about often, and there is nothing we can do or say that makes us unlovable in the eyes of God, in the eyes of love, in the eyes of the universe, because because God / love / the universe understands completely our desires, our motivations, understands our desperation in our search for love, and loves us in the same way that a parent just loves a misbehaving child. Just understands that the child is maybe a bit hungry or needs a nappy changed or something like that. And in that same way, God understands that we're looking in the wrong place, looking outwardly for something that can only be found inwardly. We're all looking for love, we're all looking for happiness. The meaning of life is eternal love, eternal happiness. It's the same thing. We're all looking externally for that which has to be nourished internally. And so when somebody brings up, talking about Hitler as well, again, it's a what's the best way of describing it? It's a really it's a cop-out, but how I'm just trying to think of the best way of putting this in words. When somebody brings up talking about Hitler, it's not separating the person from their actions. It's not understanding that God loves the sinner, not the sin. That we cannot be held accountable, or we should not be held accountable for things that we have done when we are so lost that we just don't know right from wrong. They should not be, actions done in the name of evil, in the name of going down the wrong path, should not be tolerated and are not acceptable, but at the same time must be understood that the person is incredibly lost and they actually need understanding and love more than anyone else. So my advice when it comes to karma, understand it on the eternal timeline, not just on the timeline of the person in their body in this lifetime, because it won't make any sense. You'll look and you'll go, I don't understand. Why is that person suffering so much? And you go, well, do you know what they were doing in their previous life, or the life before that, or the life before that? And also remember that spiritually, another thing that's occurred to me is that one of the understandings in spiritual reality is that when it comes to causing suffering to animals, that it is said that for every hair on the body of an animal that we eat, we reincarnate so many times that it's pretty much uncountable. So keep that in mind as well. So I hope you've got something out of this in understanding karma. It's not there to punish people. It's there to keep us accountable and to keep things flowing in the universe. Have a great Sunday morning. I've got a lot of work to do today. Live vegan, save lives. I'll speak to you soon. Ahimsa.